we are essentially done with the professional managerial class. We're done with those
Yeah.
people. I value activists and their voices. So that's why I brought Andrew. That's why I have him on consistently. I got a lot of respect for what you do, and I'm very interested in hearing what your opinion on what's going on in Palestine as well. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I mean, as far as these airdrops go, you've had State Department and Pentagon officials, when they're taking very limited numbers of questions from the press, they understand that the Israelis are using shipments of aid, the very few shipments of aid that are let into Gaza, as targets. They are killing people who are starving. I mean, these people are in the most desperate situation you can imagine. They know that they're taking a chance with their lives to go pick up flour. You've seen people massacred at the aid shipments, and you've seen people's families massacred while one of their family members went to the aid shipments. It's just the most brutal, just like psychopathic behavior. And the Biden administration is clearly okay with this. I mean, the entire U.S. political establishment is clearly okay with this, and they're doing absolutely nothing to stop it. And like you said, I think in your hotspot. By the way, your hotspots are fire every time.
Yeah,
I've
for
been
sure. They're
keeping up
fun,
with a
man.
lot of yeah. It's a good way to like sharpen your
Yeah, that's
tongue
why I
too if
love
you get
doing
it
it. I
quick.
believe I became a much sharper commentator because it forced me to do a lot of
Yeah.
research, and I got to show receipt. Like Hotspot don't tell me to do much, but I got to show my work. That's why you see all the receipts. It
Yeah.
really helps me as a commentator. But I appreciate the comment. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would just say that um, the 1.5 trucks worth, I could be getting the numbers mixed up, but I think pre-war, 500 trucks, either one per day or per week, were necessary to keep Gaza barely fed. I mean, some people are probably already aware that the Israelis have described their siege of Gaza. In some ways, they say we're keeping the people of Gaza on a diet. They wanted to keep people barely not starving. They literally counted the number of calories that they let into the entire Gaza Strip and tried to keep that just above catastrophic hunger.
He's not
And
an
now
apartheid state, though. That's what
no,
people like
don't call
Bernie
them that.
Sanders say. That what people like
Yeah,
Bernie Sanders say with straight face. But go ahead, Andrew.
yeah. God forbid you tell it like it is. That's not allowed. Like you said, we got to be done with professional managerial class. We got to be done with civility politics, and you got to be always encouraging working people to have more like self-confidence. You don't need somebody with a laundry list of degrees to tell you what reality is.
Absolutely, Andrew. Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a tiny amount of aid. It's very obvious that this is really what the Biden administration has painted them into this corner, painted themselves into this corner. If they want to keep up the appearance like they really want to oppose Trump, and they also want to keep up their support for this genocide, they're going to find these little bullshit, little tiddlywinks things to do in the corner around the edges where they can try to just sugarcoat over what they're really doing, which is shipping. I mean, I don't know how many trucks worth of weapons they're airlifting to Israel every day, but I would bet any amount of money that it's many, many times the 1.5 trucks worth of aid they just dropped.
Yeah, Gaza faces starvation as Israel continues to blockade, and this is one of the tactics that this fascist, barbaric apartheid state continues to implement. Um, this is what I saw Al Jazeera English. It's a tactic that's been uh, this is why Israel cannot be allowed to get away with this because they're trying to redefine the rules of war. We already knew that the West had this hypocrisy, but the IDF in Israel, and you even hear Israel say this was a strategy, was to send a message to the United States and their allies that, hey man, this international law bullshit is not real. And
Yeah.
this is one of the reasons why this 30,000 number people keep repeating and been repeating for weeks now doesn't make sense. You have thousands and thousands and thousands of people on brink of starvation. How long do you guys think they're going to be on the brink of starvation? They have no way to count this. This is why the most insidious, the most evil people you see in the society that say, "Oh, well, they're not genocide. They haven't killed them all yet." Well, you moron, you don't speak out against genocide when it's done.
Yeah.
You fucking idiots. Like, can you imagine, like, in the beginning of the Holocaust and beginning any genocide, thousands and thousands of people being killed at a very accelerated rate? Because remember, in the first few weeks of Gaza, the amount of children that was being killed matched the rate, actually exceeded the rate that was being killed in Auschwitz per hour. Like, when you look at the barbarity included. But many people on the right, well, they're all still alive, though. For one, citation needed for many of
Yeah.
them. Secondly, you don't wait until the genocide is done to speak out against it. How is that hard for people to understand? But any last thing you just want to add before we move on?
I mean, there's a lot, right? But the point that you made about you don't get to wait until after the genocide is over and then pretend like you opposed it. You need to be putting putting up a real strong effort if you want to. If you want to, I mean, I don't understand how you would feel, like you could sleep at night if you weren't at least doing advocacy, speaking. But I've heard people say like, oh yeah, well what Biden's doing is really bad. We don't really like what he's doing with Israel, but we got to vote for him because Trump's going to ruin democracy in America. It's like, was Hitler bad because of all the undemocratic things he did to Germans, or was it maybe the industrial mass murder that was actually the worst thing that he's remembered for? It's not a. It's ridiculous for people to be organizing their priorities that way.
So I'm gonna show you guys the Biden administration addressing this. This was condemned by not only the corporate media, you had aid groups or all around the world. Like, bro, what are you doing? And for one, how desperate are you for positive PR in the face of this uncommitted campaign that you think this will work on anyone? That you send less than 2 trucks worth of aid in a very scattered, unprofessional, uncoordinated way in Gaza, and you think that erases the fact that you're literally sending them bombs? Like, and there's this term that people keep using that drive me crazy, where Kamala Harris, and this is like the messages that come from Democrats now, where they said we want a 6-week permanent ceasefire. Like, ma'am and sir, do you need to look up a dictionary and see what the word permanent means? Like, do you know what that word means? I feel like you don't know what that means. You need a permanent 6-week ceasefire. These people say this with a straight face. I'll just read the beginning of this to show you guys the overall reaction to this insane story. President Joe Biden's decision to airdrop humanitarian aid into Gaza will temporarily provide relief for Palestinians on the ground, but it also exposes the limits of America's approach towards Israel. When the United States send military aircraft to drop food, water, medicine, and other assistance for people in need, it typically does so in areas occupied by terrorist groups or hostile regimes, not allies. Say it again. It's almost like the IDF is a terrorist organization. It's almost like the IDF is a hostile regime. And yet, months of pushing Israel to allow more aid into Gaza, where around 80% of the population is displaced and famine looms, have yielded limited results. And hold up, let's pause for a second. You guys see the propaganda they're doing here, where they're trying to pretend that Biden cares about these people? It is the Biden administration that cut UNRWA, the largest aid organization, the lifeline for hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. And they cut it without evidence, using an Israeli dossier crafted by Israeli intelligence that even the BBC and you had Channel 4 that looked at this like, this is bullshit.
I mean, let's even just pretend for a minute that the intelligence dossier they put up is true. The percentage of the people in the UNRWA who were accused of being affiliated with Hamas, whatever that's supposed to particularly mean, was tiny. I mean, it was like there's thousands of people that work for UNRWA, and you're going to say, well, we have to hold Hamas accountable by starving the population because 10, whatever, far less than 10% of the UNRWA staff might have been connected to October 7th.
They obtain and they report on this openly in the U.S. media, in the UK media, by tortured obtained confessions. Like torture is not is not admissible. Because if you're being tortured, you will say whatever it takes to end the torture, which is why torture is an inefficient way to get information. Governments in general, well, I gotta be careful what I'm saying here. In general, many governments stop the use of torture. Many of the Western governments continue it. But in general, the reason why empires stop torture, not because they're humane, fam. You think, oh man, I think we need to re-examine torture. No. People, they stop using torture because torture is not a good way to get intel. Many militaries, many empires have known this before. Torturing is for the torturer. Funny enough, I'm a big gamer. If you guys watch GTA 5, Trevor, he explains this pretty well. And it's one of them great moments in gaming where they tell the truth about the world. There are a lot of moments like that in GTA, by the way, where Trevor's like, man, dude, as a crazy psychopath, I'm telling you right now, torture doesn't work. It's for us, okay? We got some stress. We feel like torturing some folks. That's what torture is for. You don't torture people to get information. You do get torture. You do use torture if you want to create a dossier, like Israel did, that labels that if you want to plant UNRWA as a terrorist organization, they torture these people. In fact, there's a report I read that no Palestinians, like there are a lot of these Palestinian males who get kidnapped and tortured by the IDF, like their like survival rate is around like 1 to 2%. Like once you go into the IDF torture chamber, whatever the fuck it is, you don't come out. They usually torture you to death, right? And that's the tactics that the true terrorists use.